Good morning. My name's Johnny. Um, you may know of my brothers. They are Brian, Connor, Clay, and Jason. Um, we have a dissociative identity condition. We are dissociated identities living within the same body, but also we're family. We are brothers. We love each other. We take care of each other. And it's actually pretty great. Uh, but we run into a lot of uh, sometimes people don't understand because they just don't have enough information. Like maybe they only know about it from movies and books, and so they make assumptions based off that, which is usually extremely inaccurate. Or they have academic knowledge but don't know about the anecdotes, don't understand what it's like living with it. Or sometimes, they've read about it or seen a movie with it, and they know, oh, that's just a thriller book. It's not real. That's not what it's really like. But they don't know what it is like. Um, so I guess what we're trying to do when we make these videos and we put ourselves out there is we're trying to talk about something that isn't talked about by a lot of people. Most people um, who have a condition like this know they have a condition like this and are diagnosed with it or whatever, they don't want to talk about it because it's pretty private for most people. But then on top of that, there's so much stigma out there, so many assumptions that people make when they know there's more than one person sharing a body. They think, some people take the religious route and they think, oh, there's ghosts possessing you, or demons possessing you, or maybe they're a little more new agey and they're like, oh well, there's walking and then there's the original person and they're competing within the body or something like that. It's just not like that at all. And I have nothing against new agey thought in general, or religion, but I do think that looking at things one way and one way only will make you not understand it. I feel like to understand dissociative identity conditions, you need to understand the logic and the knowledge behind it. And that's great. And we try to share some of that. Some of it you can find online, and some of it you can learn about in college. I will say that the psychology course that we had in high school, they only offered one semester of psychology. It was not very in depth because it covered a broad spectrum of things. Um, and the little bit that it said about dissociative identity conditions, um, well, a lot of it was either very non-specific or just plain inaccurate. There's a little bit that was right, but God, maybe two or three sentences out of a whole textbook, were accurate descriptions or portrayals or facts or whatever about dissociative identity conditions. Um, and most people that have conditions like this have dissociative identity disorder. Um, the the type of condition I have, that me and my brothers have, it's not a disorder. We are not diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder. And the reason for that is because of the way we function. We don't qualify as having a dissociative disorder. Um, so I guess, a lot of what we're trying to do is raise awareness and help people understand, but also just to show the public how normal we are. That, we're just, a group of normal guys that happen to live in the same body and can communicate through conceptualizations. It's kind of interesting. Anyways, but yeah, we also want to let other people who go through this kind of thing know that they're not alone, that there are people who go through this, and that it doesn't have to mean that they can't do anything in life, or that they can't function in life because, I think the key things are trauma recovery and building a foundation of understanding yourself, understanding others, and between identities, understanding each other. We don't always understand um, who or what, is. We don't always understand what's happening, who each other are and stuff. I don't mean me and my brothers. I mean, in general, people who have a dissociative identity condition, they don't necessarily know, okay, well, I argue with myself sometimes, but I'm really just looking at something from more than one perspective. And then down the line, they may realize, oh, I was actually having a conversation with someone else. But since we live in the same body and we hear each other's thoughts, we thought, that we were the same person. Or maybe they just blank out. Like that used to happen quite a bit between Brian and Connor. One would be awake and the other one would blank out. And they didn't even know each other existed for quite a while. Brian didn't know that any of us existed for quite a while. We would have conversations now and then, but he would just think, oh, well, I'm looking at things from different perspectives. Well, he didn't realize that was literally from different perspectives. Well, maybe not literally. I guess that would mean literally seeing from different angles. But what I mean is that this is so hard to describe. What I'm getting at is that a lot of people going through this don't understand what it is, don't understand themselves, don't understand the condition in general. And I think it's important to not only to raise awareness that this is a common thing that happens, and to, advise that people get appropriate trauma recovery if they need it. And it's just like anything that you would want to have a good doctor who not only, specializes in the thing you're dealing with, but is also understanding and cares about what you want, is able to educate you about the subject appropriately, give you suggestions for good resources, medication if you need it. But here's the thing. The medications that we take are not for the dissociated identities. That is not something that needs or even has medication for. As far as I know, there's not a single medication that is for treating dissociated identities. Now, there's medication that is specifically for helping with delusions. And sometimes when people say, oh, I'm hearing a voice, it's like, well, is it that you are having a delusion in which your fears are so, you're feeling them so strongly that you perceive them as being outside yourself? Or that, because we understand what it's like for people who have any sort of, what do they call it, like schizoaffective or schizophrenia. And it's very different from having dissociated identities. It's extremely different. But in diagnosis, from the doctor's perspective, when you describe it and you say, I hear another voice and they're not agreeing with me and they're yelling at me about this, or, they're angry about that, or I'm upset about this and blah, blah, blah. I mean, they don't necessarily have a good perspective on what you're dealing with. They only have what you're describing. And so a lot of the times, people get misdiagnosed. It happens. Schizoaffective disorder is a real thing. Dissociated identities, they're a real thing too. But they are not the same thing as each other. And so, so I guess I just wanted to, make it clear that, there are medications available that doctors may prescribe someone with dissociated identities. But, a mood stabilizer is not the same thing as a treatment for dissociative identity disorder. You know, it's just that there's different types of medications out there. Not all of them are even understood completely. They've just done enough, medical trials and stuff to know that, okay, this helps with this, but they may not know the extent of what it can or can't help with. And there's nothing that I'm aware of that can actually treat dissociated identities. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people think the treatment of such a condition should be, isolating one identity, making it the main one, putting the others to sleep, or assimilating them all together, integrating them into one mind, or something like that. All right, the first one, how would you feel if someone just drugged you to sleep for the rest of your life and let someone else take over your body? That'd be fucked up. It's like, that's not the way to deal with things. If you even could do some sort of therapy or medication to make it where one is active and the other ones are either ignored or suppressed, okay, that is extremely unhealthy. Because every one of them, in most cases, needs to be recognized, heard, and treated like a person. If there's trauma recovery to go through, then any of the identities that need trauma recovery should have the same support. They should be able to go through the trauma recovery alone or together, however it is. They should have the support of their family and friends. They should have treatment from whatever counselors or psychiatrists or even just mentors, and it's not one of those things where you should say, oh, well, I'm going to help Clay with this, but I'm not going to talk to Connor. Things like that. It's like, well, if someone's not comfortable with Connor, then that is their preference and we can discuss that and whatever. But if it's a medical professional and they're saying, I am dealing with a legal entity and I'm not going to talk to any of your alters. What they say is irrelevant and I'm not treating them, I'm treating you. Well, okay. I understand as far as legal responsibilities go. I do not understand as someone who, anyone who has taken the pledge to do no harm. That's harmful, man. That is very harmful. Imagine your patient is someone going through a lot of trauma or has been through a lot of trauma in the distant past even. And they need to be able to deal with it. It could be someone with extreme PTSD. But you're going to ignore them completely because you're not legally obligated to treat that person, even though he shares a body with the person you are treating. I mean, I get it, but I don't. Because the thing is that if you're ignoring one of them or suppressing one of them, then what's going on is that person is having, their issues potentially get a lot worse from that, from not being taken care of, from being suppressed even can be very traumatic. I speak from experience. Not being recognized as an actual person, that does a lot of harm. Anyways, so the point I'm getting at is that, the way that works for us, that continues to work for us, is that we take care of our issues individually and together. People who want to just ignore a separate personality and get them, quote unquote, under control so that they don't emerge at all, so that they never have time as the active identity. I think that there is a much better approach available to them. And in a lot of cases, I think that approach would be, okay, if this person is unstable, what is causing them to be unstable? Is it that they have PTSD? Does your alter have some sort of phobia? And that counseling would help them with it, you know? Um, or would just your support of them feeling like they're never heard and they can't even be regarded as a person. But they know that they have a mind like anybody else, and they have an identity like anyone else. Um, it's really important for people to understand that, assimilation is not always a great thing, and suppression is not always a great thing. In fact, I think neither are ever a good thing, ever. In my opinion, neither are ever okay. Because assimilation is basically like, okay, so dissociated identities are a developmental thing. It has to do with brain development in childhood and stuff like that. But I think what a lot of people need to understand is that the different identities are different people, and they all deserve respect. They all deserve love, and treating them with understanding. When you are one of the alters, and when there is anyone in your life who has this kind of thing, that kind of understanding is necessary. It isn't a luxury. It is a necessity to have understanding and compassion from the people you care about and from each other. I'm going to leave it at that. I think that assimilation makes as much sense as if somebody had polydactyly and they grew with extra fingers, and those extra fingers function perfectly and there's nothing wrong with them, and instead of letting it be, they look at it and they go, that doesn't look right to me. That's not how normal people are. So we're just gonna cut off the extra fingers. Or they say, like, well, they need to assimilate. They need to be integrated into one finger. So we are gonna take your, two pinkies, and we are going to cut them in half lengthwise, and then take the middle pieces out and sew the outsides together, and there you go. You're going to be good as new, and it'll be correct now. That is such a stupid idea, and that's what a lot of assimilation therapy attempts to do. Does poorly or doesn't do at all. And I mean, there's just a lot of issues with the way that this kind of a thing is treated. Anyways, I guess my point is that we are all people. We all need to be treated as people. And when something's not broken, don't try to fix it. Don't try to say, or fix the correct thing. Fix the thing that is actually wrong. Because a lot of people, it's not wrong that they have multiple identities. It may be wrong that they went through trauma and thus need trauma recovery and healing. So I think healing is the way to go. It's not about trying to make someone standard. It's about trying to help someone be healthy and whole and complete, and to be able to function. And I think being able to function when you have multiple identities is going to happen so much better. Being healthy and being able to function both are very important, and I don't think either can be sacrificed for the other. And that's what happens, is people will lose their ability to function because they're trying to deal with it differently, or medical professionals will let things get worse by only treating one identity and trying to get rid of or silence the others. And that is so unhealthy. Because guess what? When you share a nervous system with someone who is being continually traumatized by not being recognized as a person, that's going to show up sooner or later. And it's not healthy for the person that that is the active identity. That's just, it's wrong. Morally, ethically, medically, it's wrong. Damn, that was a long tirade, and I'm really sorry about that. Uh, so, anyways, I have done my first video. I'm trying to help my brothers by participating in our ongoing project of helping people understand, that if they have it, they're not alone, and things can get a whole lot better, but they have to give it a chance, and they have to get help in the right ways, and from the right people, because not everyone's going to know how to help. Even some of the people who specialize in the field may not know how to help, or by the local laws may be bound to certain things. I think in some states in America, and I could be wrong, but I think in some states, if a counselor who's qualified is able to diagnose someone with having dissociative identity disorder, then they may be legally required to either refer them to or give them assimilation therapy. And as I've just said, that is a terrible idea. But if the law requires it, then their hands are tied. As someone who's licensed and stuff like that, they can't break the law. And so, therefore, the person who's the most qualified to help you may not be able to because of things like that. You never know. Or they may have limited experience with your particular variation of the issue. Mine's very unique. I haven't met a lot of other people with it that don't have, a lot of people, they can't talk to their alters very easily. They can't intentionally share certain amounts of memories and certain amounts of information just by thinking it at the other person they're sharing a body with, and I think that makes a big difference for me. With us being able to communicate, with us being able to alternate on purpose when we want to, we're in a very unique situation where we are able to talk about this. We are able to put ourselves out there and be able to continue functioning because it's not so traumatizing to talk about that we aren't able to. And because we're not in a position where it would hurt our business or employment opportunities or something, we're not in a situation where we're limited by, oh, well, my cousin's stepfather is running for government office, so I have to either be out of the family or stay quiet about it, or whatever, different situations are different. I don't actually know of any of my cousins that have a stepfather, but my point is that there's so many different factors and reasons that people don't talk about this kind of thing. I think it needs to be talked about. And I think that me and my brothers are in the unique position where we understand what's going on with us. We're able to function and we're able to disseminate information. And I feel like if we ignore that, we don't do something, then that is irresponsible of us. And so that's why I'm going to help with making these videos. And there's so many different things you can take from them. Just the fun story of the game we're playing, the complexities or details about when we talk about our condition, or even just the observations about us, how we're different, how we're alike, um, and the fact that we are pretty much just normal guys. Because a lot of people think that if you have dissociative identities or dissociated identities, that you can't be normal, that there's nothing normal about that. Well, it's more common than people think, but most of all, it doesn't mean that any part of you or any version of you is psycho. And we're not even versions of each other. We are separate people. But my point is that none of us are dangerous or unstable or unhinged like people generally assume. And I want to not only tell people that none of us are like that. I want to show them. And I feel like by watching us do these games, hearing the way we talk about each other and talk about our condition, you can learn a lot. And just the fact that, we're able to be ourselves and and then later watch the videos and see how, because like, all right, when we watch videos or see pictures of each other, we can tell who it is. Like I can see a photograph and go, oh man, that is Connor's smile. Or, oh man, you can tell Clay's posing for that picture. He always does that certain angle with his face to make, whatever. Or Clay's smile is so funny. He like smiles with one side of his mouth. It's kind of funny. I mean, it's not like, it doesn't look like the other side is numb. It's just that like he has this sort of like lopsided grin, I guess. Anyways, but and then when we hear our voices, being able to really see how we express each other or express ourselves, when we hear each other in our heads, is very different than actually hearing the cadence and vocabulary and approach to things that we have when we're speaking. So this is a long video that I've made. Probably gonna cut a lot of it out, but however much or little of it makes it out to YouTube, I just want everyone to know that if you're going through this, you're not alone. If you know someone going through this, there is hope for them, and they are not incorrect or necessarily unstable, or and that the stigmas and stereotypes are almost like 90% of the time, maybe more, are not applicable at all. So there are great things that are possible, and I guess that's what I want people to come away with. There are great things that are possible, and I want there to be a better understanding for the general public to have of this. Anyways, so as Brian says, have respect for each other. As Connor says, have fun. And I'd like to say, be aware and don't think with your fears.